We can begin. My name is Paul Tampianco. I head up marketing and business development for Projecis. And I want to welcome everybody to today's webinar, which is creating projects, how to invite members, and editing your personal profile within Projecis. Now, we do have quite a number of people on the line, so if you have any questions, please feel free to put it into the question box within your screen panel. If you do have questions after the webinar, please feel free to reach out to me at paul@projecis.com. So in today's webinar, we'll be going over creating projects. Who can create them? What do they entail? And how to assign a variety of people to those particular projects. We'll also be talking a little bit about inviting members to subscription and also editing your own personal profile. So let's first go over who can create a project and also how do you know if you can create a project? Well, firstly, Members cannot create projects, only subscription administrators. And you can be a full administrator or a project administrator. If you're one of these type of administrators, you can create projects. Now, how do you know if you can create a project? Well, firstly, you have access to the Manage Projects and Members option within Projecis, and I'll show you that in just a second. For the purposes of this webinar, we'll be using Luke Skywalker, who is a full administrator, R2D2, who's a project level administrator, and Boba Fett, who's just a regular member. We'll be using these examples to see what they can see and what they can do within Projecis. So let's go ahead and log in as Luke Skywalker. Now I'm here as Luke Skywalker, as you could tell in the upper right, and Luke Skywalker is a full administrator. So how do we know we can create a project? Well, as I mentioned before, if you're a full administrator or a project administrator, you'll have access to manage projects and members. This is how you know if you are an administrator on this particular subscription. Now let's go ahead and create a project. All I do is click on this pull down. It'll open up a particular page, and then I simply click on projects. This page gives me a listing of all the projects that I have access to within this particular subscription, and also gives me a summary of which ones are active, on hold, pending, or closed. So in order to create a project, all I do is click on New Project on the right-hand side. For those of you new in Projecis, this type of format is very similar throughout the features within the system. The Browse and Search features are on the right-hand sub-tab, and the New features are on the right-hand sub-tab, or New Items. So let's go ahead and click on New Project. Once I click on New Project, a form will appear. I have a lot of things open within the system, so it might take a second. All I do is click on project name, enter the project name, select the business type. Now this is an important aspect of Projecis. When you create a project, you should take time and determine what business type is appropriate for you. Because once you select that business type, it pre-populates a lot of the pull-down menus within Projecis. So let's say in this particular case I was doing clinical research. All I do is click on clinical research and it will select those pull-down menus for future items within the system. I can enter a due date, and then I can hide a variety of features for a particular project. Within Projecis, you can have as many projects as you want. There is no limitation to the number of projects, and we do not charge you based on projects. Each project can have a different set of features available. So for example, if I was creating a project that was simply a repository of documents that I was sharing with an outside vendor or client, maybe I want to turn everything else off except for files. I might want a couple other features as well. So again, you can create projects that have specific features available. And all I do is add this project and it will create this project. Now, as I mentioned, Luke Skywalker is an administrator on the subscription. So Luke Skywalker can create projects. However, let's take a look at what happens when you are a regular member. So in this particular screen, I'm logged in as Boba Fett. So as I mentioned before, Boba Fett is a regular member on this subscription. If I were to click on his name and look at the pull down, we'll see that the managing projects and members is not an option within his pull down. So he cannot create projects, he cannot invite people to this subscription, he cannot assign people to subscription. So again, here's a view of a regular member and what they can do within Projecis. Okay, let's go back to the slides real quick. And the next thing I want to go over is inviting members into a subscription. Who can invite a member into a subscription and who can assign members to projects? So first of all, who can invite members into a subscription? Only full-level administrators can invite members into a subscription. Well, why is that? Why only full-level administrators? When you invite people into your subscription, you're actually occupying a seat. So you're consuming resources. As a result, you really want that ability to consume or utilize resources within Projecis to be limited to a few people. Within Projecis, you can have as many administrators as you want, either full or project. However, more likely than not, your full-level administrators are much more smaller in number than certainly project-level administrators. However, if you're an administrator, whether full or project, you can assign members to projects. And again, that ability here is seen in managing projects and members. Okay, if you have access to this, you can actually assign people to particular projects. So let's go ahead and take a look at how this is viewed within Projecis. Again, I'm looking at this particular screen. I am here as Luke Skywalker, and let's invite somebody into the subscription. Similarly to creating projects, all I do is click on my name, go to Manage Projects and Members, open up this screen, and instead of going to projects, we're going to go to people. Now here I have a listing of people currently within the subscription, and we saw that we do have our Boba Fett, who's a regular member. You can see the flag under his picture, and we have R2D2, who's a project level administrator. Again, has a flag underneath his picture. Let's add a new person. All I do is click on Add Person on the right-hand side, enter their name, first name, last name, email address, their company, and decide whether they're going to be a regular member or an administrator. If I decide I want them to be an administrator, all I do is click on administrator and then select whether they're going to be full project and whether they can manage billing. Okay. The ability to manage billing and seats means you're giving them the ability to add seats as well as print out invoices. So that's within the system. And then all I do is click on invite this person. Once I click on invite this person, the person I've invited will receive an email. Within that email will be a link for them to set up their own username and passwords. They control their own username and passwords. Administrators within the system do not see other people's username and passwords, even if they're within their subscription. And once they click on that, enter their username and password, they're in the system. Now you'll notice when I add a person to a subscription, I have the ability to add members and add non-members. Well, what is the difference between the two? A member is a person that can be assigned to projects. So they occupy a seat within your subscription and they can be assigned to projects. Non-members, however, do not occupy a seat and cannot be assigned to projects. Well, why is this here? Well, for a couple of reasons. One is when you're first starting your subscription, more likely than not, everybody that you add to your subscription is going to be a member. You're adding them for a particular purpose. However, as projects start to drop off, some of those people probably don't need to occupy a seat anymore or may not need to occupy a seat for some period of time. All you do is you can go into the system and you can make them non-members, and they are therefore not occupying a seat. Now, the advantage of doing that, shifting people from members to non-members, is that you can always move a person back from non-member to member in the future without having to add a lot of information like their name, email address, and so on. So you can do this moving people back and forth simply within the system from member to non-member. Okay. So this is how you would add somebody to a particular subscription. Now, how do we add somebody to a project? Now, again, this is a full-level administrator, so he can do anything within the system, there are several ways you can assign people to projects. Certainly I can go back to this People tab, and again, we're still in the workspace area, where if you click on Manage Projects and Members, this is the workspace area that you are entering. All I have to do is certainly click on a person I want to edit, add to a project, and certainly click on Project Assignments, and then add a particular project. So I can add a name of a particular project. Let's say it's the WSHU project, select the role, and select their permission. Now you can always change this in the future, but these are project level permissions, not subscription level permissions. So a person could be a leader on one project and be a regular member where none of these are selected in a completely different project. So this is one way to add a person to a particular project. Another way is certainly from the projects level. I can certainly open up a particular project. Let's say I'm going to open up XYZ. It only has one member in it. Click on Member Assignments, and it will open up the similar type page. Let's see. Add a new member, and again, select their role and their permission on this particular project. So there are a variety of ways to add people to particular projects, and similarly, you can always remove somebody from a project in a very similar way. Okay. Now, one of the things we mentioned before is a full administrator can assign somebody to a project. Well, what about project level administrators? Well, let's log in as a different member on this particular subscription. So I'm going to log in as R2D2. R2D2 is a project level administrator. So here I've logged in as R2D2. And we mentioned that R2D2 can create projects. So if I click on Projects and Members, he can click on projects, he can add a new project and go from there. Now, one thing that a project level administrator cannot do, as I mentioned, is add people to the subscription. So if I were to click the People tab, I can only add non-members. I cannot add a regular member to the subscription. If I cannot add a particular person into a subscription as a non-member, that member cannot be, as a regular member, that member cannot be assigned to a project. But I can assign people that are currently on the subscription to projects. So similar, and I can assign this particular person to a project if I wish. So I can certainly do that within the system. And I can also do that from this particular area as well. Okay, so I can click on Member Assignments and then assign them to projects. So this is within Projecis. As a administrator, whether project or full, you can assign somebody to a project. Okay, let's just jump directly back to the slides. The next thing I want to go over is individual member profiles. Individual members manage their own profiles. And it's important that you tell your team that they do have to manage it because you do not have access to their individual profiles, the ability to manage them. And secondly, the profile is an important aspect of Projecis. It does dictate or indicate the individual's time zone. So when meetings are scheduled, it will actually adjust those meetings to their local time zone. It also dictates what kind of communication channels are available to others on the team. So these are things that certainly you would want to manage for yourself. Now basically with my team, I'll basically, when we first start, I'll basically ask everybody to go into their own profile and include their telephone number, include their email addresses, things that certainly are important for the project to move forward. And we're going to see that in just a second. So let's jump back to this demo. Now let's just jump to the top page. Now, why is managing your profile important? Well, for example, here, if I hover over R2D2, I have the ability to call them, to ping them, or even to chat with them. And that means, for example, R2D2 has included some telephone numbers within his profile that I can access. If I hover over Boba Fett, Boba Fett has not entered any telephone number within his profile, so I do not have the ability to call them. So the call icon is not visible for that particular individual. So if you want to be able to utilize a lot more of the communication features, they really have to manage their profile in such a way that allows that. So how do we do that? All you do is click on your name in the upper right-hand side, and there are a couple of settings we'll go over. One is where let's view and edit profile. Okay. This particular screen will come up. I can see that I have a variety of email addresses in here, as well as a Skype address and a telephone number. But all I do is click on Edit Profile, and I have the ability to manage my name, title, company. I can actually make email addresses visible or hidden, and I can click on email addresses to add even more. So I can add a variety of email addresses. Now, one email address has to be primary. The primary email address is the only email address that will get notifications. So you're not going to get notifications in 6 different email addresses. You're just going to get it on the primary one. The other email addresses allows you to do other things, such as to submit communications to Projecis. But only the primary one will actually get notifications. So that's an important issue. If I go back to the previous page, I can also manage telephone numbers by simply clicking on telephone numbers and managing any Skype or LinkedIn items as well. Now, some of you might have noticed when I clicked on Manage Email Addresses, Account Settings actually comes up. And this is actually an ability for you to manage other parts of the system, just to let you know. Certainly, you can manage phone numbers from here. Linked accounts, if you have any linked accounts, system notifications, and so on. So this is where you might want to manage, for example, your daily digest. Daily digest is a email that is sent to you each morning, 4 o'clock your local time. That actually tells you what's been going on with your project, within your projects, a listing of assignments that are due, and as well as meetings that you might have for that particular day. And that will come to you every single day, 4 o'clock a.m. However, you do have to set this notifications on. All you do is click on the box, hit update, and that notification will be on. After you do that, you'll have to go into the projects and dictate which projects you want in that notification. You might have a lot of projects, and some of them you really want to know via email each day, and others really you don't, either because you're peripherally involved or because they're not really critical items within your list of projects. So that's where you want to manage that, is really within the projects level area. That is a separate webinar. We do have a quick webinar that does review that as well. Okay. But all of this is here within Projecis, and everybody does have to manage their own individual profile, including passwords and so on. So let's, with that, I'm going to open it up for any questions. Okay, there aren't any questions. Just want to let everybody know that thank you for participating in this particular webinar. If there are any questions, please feel free to email me directly at paul@projecis.com, and we will be posting this this webinar within YouTube, and send a link to everybody that's registered for this particular meeting. So again, with that, I'd like to thank everybody for participating.